Hey everybody, David Knott here with Catherine Hall Band, and wanted to do my video presentation of my KLC project and what I was working on up here at Catherine Hall. Overview of my goal, and my goal itself was how might I communicate more effectively and clearly to ignite all the stakeholders in the band program at the Milton Hershey School. And one of the things that was really important to me is to identify the different areas of where we have stakeholders. So we found that we really had three different sets of stakeholders: our students, my part-time music staff, and the various adults that support the students. Each of those people and groups of people, stakeholders, had different impacts on the needs for them and for the growth of the band program. And so we had to, or I had to, come up with a way to see how we could take the DAC concept and make the Milton Hershey way of band flow into the system of band stakeholders at Milton Hershey. So why this goal? Coming with that idea is starting with why. Well, we offer a complex environment for the students in the morning VPA studies. We can get into that, but not really on time for this video presentation, but it's very complex in the morning. We wanted to work smarter towards our goals so we can create better flow in the system. And that would then allow us to measure diversified growth, how we're diversifying our different tasks, and our artistic level of growth in the band program. And then as well, we can take that and utilize the different SEL concepts that we've been doing in band and being kind of on the forefront of that and staying with the cutting edge of how the school's growing with the SEL program and the student emotional learning. So I looked at the direct impact and tried to refine those at hand of the first two stakeholders, our students and our part-time faculty. And we spent a lot of time over the past 3 years revising our curriculum, taking that Pareto's principle, that 80-20 concept. And we're in our third year of taking standards from the national all the way right down to what we at Milton Hershey in the band, Catherine Hall Band program feel are the things that are valuable to our students, rendered that into the most important 20% of the concepts that are going to give us the most growth. We've increased our why statements. This is why we're doing this and leading here. We varied the use of technology and evaluation procedures, and we increased voice and choice for our students, because not everyone has the same approach and the same needs and the same character as we learned in our different studies that we did with our own personalities. One of these we'll talk about later as how it impacts my perception of my goal. For the part-time faculty, most importantly, what we take away is we moved for more interactive communication from this leadership academy. The hierarchical concept where here's what I want you to do, to a more integrated, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm needing, here's how I need your help, what are your thoughts? And as a result, it's been pretty effective. Now, our third set of stakeholders are much more complex because it's just not one entity, it's multiple entities of adult stakeholders, from the classroom teachers to the building administration to the house parents to the sponsors. How do we get those four sets of adults to ignite for wanting to have growth and elevation of the band program? How do we communicate to each set effectively? Because everyone needs a different type of communication. So the overall goal with these adult stakeholders was to increase our perceived value, looking at the band program and increasing the value that is seen from outside onlookers to the value to the Milton Hershey system. So some of the things that we did is we streamlined communication procedures to like the house parents. The thing called a 5-Bullet Friday, come up a little bit later. We increased visibility by being in 2 different social media platforms. And we've tried to make the flow of the day-to-day band program less impacting on the core teachers. All of these working to make everyone feel that the band program is less impacting in a negative way and is more positive for them. So what does this look like when it's achieved? How am I going to measure this? How am I going to make it kind of SMART goalie? Well, one thing I'm hoping to see is an increase in attendance at the concert of the different adult stakeholders. When our students are only playing for their colleagues, the other students, we got to remember those students, 2/3 of our audience are students who don't want to be in band. So how do we increase the value for them by having more people who want to be at those concerts to see them? So more of the adult stakeholders there. More support for management of student attention to curricular requirements. So as we increase the value from the stakeholders, a result might be of that goal being achieved is students getting more assistance with finding a practice routine at the student home. Maybe a sponsor is going to be communicating a little bit more or watching some things on the social media that's going to inspire the kid to want to practice. So a lot of different involvement there. And then between these kind of last two bullets here is just increasing the sense of band community, that even though maybe students and adults and all that aren't necessarily involved in the band, they do sense it as an important part of the community, that the impact that it's having on the school and on the programs at Catherine Hall, it's something of value to them. So what's my reflection as I've gone through these different concepts and taken the time through this academy? I've reflected on that, also personally and then with the coaching sessions. And so looking at what has worked and what needs to grow. So my different reflections, first thing is that the DAC concept works really well, but I've changed the wording to make it more, I think, useful for my direct needs, which is building culture, community, which will lead to commitment. The culture is all involved with our band students and our part-time faculty, because we're the ones in the band. We're the ones that are mixing it up, making it happen. And these are seem to be showing some growth areas. I'm not going to get into the bullet details here specifically, but we are definitely seeing growth from them. In the streamlined communications, I've utilized a thing called a 5-bullet Friday email format to the adults, and I've also increased the social media to help elevate our message of the Catherine Hall bands, to get out, find different ways for adults that are interested in the program to be actively involved. But I still feel there's a disconnect from the community element and the actual band culture. I'm not sure if the perceived value has completely increased in the outside stakeholders, but I'm not, and hoping to keep refining that. So my further reflection of why are things not working? So I took one of our concepts from the last cohort meeting, and first of all, I applied it here. It's like, maybe it is working, and my 5-row-B analysis prevents me from seeing it. When I look at that last category, the need for affection and feedback, maybe I'm not getting enough only based on those needs. So I could have a perceived bias that's telling me that it's not being met, but maybe it is, because I'm just not receiving the information the way I personally need to receive it. Further reflection, yes, it is working, and I need to consider a different mode of communication. So if I want more feedback in our social media or our emails, maybe those modes of communication, it's the right message, wrong platform. Yes, it is working, and I have to be more specific to what the adult stakeholder interaction would look like in the ideal Milton Hershey band world. So I have some future actionable items, which I don't think you can read here, but future things will be to define the community deeper. What is that going to look like? I'm going to spell that out, and what those different aspects are, and how that interaction can be mutually beneficial. So create what's the benefit for the adult community to be more involved with the band program, and how will this lead to a qualitative advancement of the band program within the school. So I have 2 quotes here that I need to remember as I'm working on this project throughout the rest of the year and throughout my tenure on this sort of growth point. Number 1 is from the Stoic Seneca, that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And number 2, I got from Twitter. I follow a guy on Twitter named Dan Rockwell. He goes by Leadership Freak, has great leadership quotes and thoughts. And the one he put on here is, don't expect enthusiastic responses to ambiguous messages. So I know, taking that in, I have to keep refining my DAC. So my next steps and actions toward the goal will be to get rid of the ambiguous messages and define the ideal community for the support of the band program, where we are not really just a peninsula of the school. And no band is an island either. We don't want to be separate. We want to be a part of that inclusive leadership. We don't want to feel like we're at the bottom of the hierarchy and the perceived value, social status. We want to be inclusive into the growth of the school. I want to reconsider the value of the social media. Am I on the right platform and presenting to the right people? How am I going to gain back for the program and for the students and the growth of the program through the social media? Maybe I need a platform change. If my goal is to sponsor, maybe we need to be more on Facebook and less on Twitter. I want to use that DAC for the adult stakeholders to increase our perceived value and to be specific to the message for the need for greater community and support. I need to map that out more clearly and focus on that point now that stakeholder 1 of the students and the stakeholder 2 of the part-time staff are working. And lastly, just need to not take any of it personally and maybe not take it too seriously and get too wrapped up in it. So that's my goals. Appreciate taking time to listen, and thanks again.